Last week we talked about a lot of things. Any takeaways or thoughts from last Thursday? We talked about goal setting and the breakdown of working backwards between the amount of money that you want to make and the number of appointments you need to go on, or contracts you need to close, appointments you need to go on, contacts you need to make, activities, attempts rather, to those contacts. But it was all predicated on the dollar amount that you would potentially want to make based on running through that exercise that we call the allocation of funds. Did everyone do this? Take some time to kind of jot some notes down?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to share. I just want to see if it was helpful for you in providing some clarity in terms of what it is that you want to earn. Gene, you're shaking your head yes. Is that a yes? Okay, good. Okay, awesome. I didn't know if you were on mute or not. Anyone else? Justin or Jordan?
I was going to say, before I got to that, I wanted to give my, I guess, Q1 numbers in my checkbook with Quicken, kind of pretty solid to make sure I'm, everything's balanced on all that stuff. And now today I'm going to do my report that shows me where my money is going. So I then feed that into that spreadsheet. Come up with a number.
Good.
So,
I remember when I was trying to do it myself, I wasn't that sophisticated. So I was just pulling my online P&C statements and I was looking for anything regarding groceries. Okay. And then I was like jotting down that. Then I was looking for anything that was a restaurant or eating out. And then I got to like Amazon. I was like, I don't know how these are allocated, but this is a lot of money going to Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. There's a difference between where you want your money to go and where it's actually going. So sometimes when you put together a budget, you think that you're spending X amount of dollars, but if you go back through what you're actually spending, there's the aha moment. So cool.
Hallelujah. I got my headphones to work.
Okay. So what's the next stage of this launch here? Going to the folder.
It's going to be buyer questionnaire, buyer presentation, how to pre-qualify people.
Got it.
Before going out and showing them homes, if possible.
Got it. Awesome. So we typically talk about buyers, then we talk about sellers. Both are equally important. And if you read the MREA, talk about building a big business means focusing on getting listings. And I don't think there's anything right or wrong. I will tell you that some agents prefer listings. But the reason the MREA model kind of focuses on that is for a few reasons. Can anyone think of why that might be, to get listings rather than just focus on getting buyers? Anyone can feel free to speak up. I don't want to be.
Just take a wild guess. We'll brainstorm here. You guys, I'm sure we'll be on the right track.
well, I guess one thing with a listing is you've got, you put in the MLS and that, it gets all marketed for you online. So now you're exposed to the opportunity to multiple, buyers and other agents. And you're not doing the work. The system is doing the work for you.
Yeah, leverage.
Aspect of it. Leverage.
Yeah, leverage. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, so the exposure. Anyone else?
Who else is doing work
Well,
for you?
everybody knows that whoever has the listings controls not just the listing, but a lot of buyers coming in and asking about the property. So you kind of you still need to advertise.
So you get leads
like
out
you
of
are
it.
waiting, but you get leads, a lot of
Yeah.
leads out of.
Yeah, they say
Hopefully
when you
it's gonna be the same.
yeah, typically they say when you have a buyer, you're going to sell one property, right? You're going to help that buyer buy a property, hopefully. When you have a listing, you potentially can sell two properties. And what they mean by that that is you can sell the property that you've listed, and then hopefully through your marketing efforts, you have procured one buyer, not necessarily for that property, but maybe for another property. Because when you have the exposure as a listing agent, right, you're signing on the ground and you're listing out there, you are going to, like Alina said, get leads. Leads will come in, right? You have that exposure in terms of being an agent. The biggest buyer's agent in the area typically isn't known, right? Because their signs aren't out in yards. They're not sending out just listed, just sold postcards and such. So I don't discourage anyone from representing buyers or sellers. But if you want a sustainable business, you should look at least 50-50, right? And then growing that listing side over time. But new agents to start, you're typically going to be finding buyers through your marketing efforts, through your prospecting, through your word of mouth. You're going to be introduced to people that want to buy and help them buy. You're going to be holding open houses and meeting buyers and such. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And that's why we kind of start with buyers and then we'll work into sellers. So with that being said, I'll make sure I stay on track here with the,
originally,
36 touch. Are we doing that, or do you want to just talk about basically buyer, like lead coming into buyer consult?
Yeah, I think we should just go there for now. Well, let's ask everybody, did you put your 25 contacts into your 25 additional contacts into command since our last session?
I have all my contacts in command.
That's awesome. How many?
Only 107. I was surprised.
Okay. So where's that memory jogger, Matt?
Yeah, I think I briefly talked about it at the end of our
Yes.
conversation last Thursday. It's in the launch folder section 2. I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay?
Yep.
Can you all see my screen? So this is in the KW coaching. There's this launch folder right under session 2 is Ultimate Bold Memory Jogger. This document is just a PDF, but it's just 150 self-reflective questions that you're going to, the goal is to spark your memory of people that you should be putting in your database, right? So starting with who's your immediate family members. I mean, this is for most people a no-brainer, right? That's the people you think of. But then it's like, okay, who are your spouse's family members or a relationship or whatever you are? Who are your extended people, right? This goes beyond that. Maybe people you haven't spoken to in a long time. Who's your best friend? Well, probably they're in it, right? But who's your spouse's best friend? Who are your other very close friends? Who are your spouse's closest friends?
I like number 10.
Who owes you money? Who would come get you at 2 a.m. with no questions asked? Yeah. So going through this, like for me, I mean, as someone with kids, who are your children's friends' parents, right? That's a big one. Who are your children's teachers, coaches, principals, dentists, doctors? I mean, some of these are not going to pertain to you, but the point is that all of us can, I think, really surprise ourselves with the number of people that they can come up with, right? And extending that. And once you've gotten to the limit, awesome, good. The point is, though, you're out there meeting and introducing yourself to people all the time. It's important to always put them in to feed that database, right? And to grow it over time. Make sense? I was just talking to the coaching clients that are in growth coaching that I realized I had a lot of people that I was Facebook friends with that weren't in my database. And I kind of ashamed of that because I talk about this all the time with everyone, right? But the reason I've kind of come to that realization is because I said, well, I don't have their phone. They're not in my phone. I don't have their phone number. I don't have their email, but I am Facebook friends with them. And I do have their Facebook profile. So I can put them in there and put their Facebook profile link in there and hopefully grow the information that I have in there, you know, and I can target them through ads, right? So I have the time to do that right now. We all have the time to do that, right? When you're out and about and busy, some people find that they don't even have time to put clients that they're working with in their database. So this is the time to do it in terms of growing it. And then using it as an opportunity to reach out to those people to announce what you're doing. So go through this exercise if you haven't already, Gene. You might surprise yourself of who you start thinking about. I know I was talking to an agent, and you know, she said, "Well, I have my hairdressers in here." You know, she was very proud of that. I said, "Okay, great. What about your dog's hairdresser?" And she kind of chuckled, and then she said, "Well, she's only 20 years old." I said, "Okay, but she has parents, right?" And the point is that it's not just the people that you're entering into your database that will potentially buy or sell, but they will be the people that are going to refer you as well. So just know that your, you know, database spiders out, and the more people in it, the more people who are seeing you and become familiar with the fact that you now do real estate, the better.
So once you have these people in command, and as you're putting them in, you should be adding them to some sort of smart plan. If you have their address and their email, you can put them on the monthly or the biweekly neighborhood nurture. If you have a birthday, you can put them on a birthday plan so that you get reminded every year when it's their birthday. I send a card to everybody whose birthday I have listed on there. It's just a touch, little handwritten. I have a stack of generic, you know, birthday cards I just bought on Amazon, just a big box of them. I send those out once a year to everybody. Take time to familiarize yourself with that library of those different smart plans. And I believe now you can create your own, which I am ashamed to say I haven't done yet. But you can do that too. So that's when you start hearing people in Keller Williams talk about 36 touch or 8x8, you know, there's all this lingo. With the creation of Command and all these smart plans, it has automated a lot of that for us. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So an 8x8 is what we talk about when you want to cement yourself into someone's brain as a real estate agent. So that's typically for a new contact, right? You're going to touch them 8 times in 8 weeks. Is it 8 times in 8 weeks? Yeah, 8 times in 8 weeks. So if you go and look in Command, there is a library. Let me see, hold on. Let me try and share my screen. Share. Okay, I'm moving this over to the side. I'm trying to think of where the library is without going through the contacts. Is it under settings? Smart plans. How's that? So if you go up here and you look at library, it's got all of them, right, that you can look at. I don't know how much you guys can see or not because I have this minimized so I can see what I'm doing.
You can see it pretty good.
So here's 8x8, right? If you hover here to view steps or click on it, it'll show you. If you are signed up with a service called Twilio, it will automatically send these texts for you. You won't have to do anything. If you are not signed up with Twilio, it will prompt you to send out a text. So you can just do it by hand. And it gives you a sample of what you might want to say to someone. Like I would say, hey, Matt, it's Sharon from Keller Williams. I'd love to grab coffee sometime. Let me know what your schedule looks like in the next few days. Bam, shoot it out. That's it. Then the smart plan's going to delay 7 days. And then it'll come and it'll say, send an email. This is assuming that they have not replied to your first contact, right? let's go out and grab some coffee. And then it waits another week. And then it tells you to give them a call, see how they're doing. Waits another week, another text. Hey, just want to check in. How's your day going? Any real estate needs I can help you with? So this makes it easy to just follow directions if you're finding it difficult to come up with ways to reach out to them, right? As you put people on different smart plans, when you go up here, this is going to look really bad. When you go up here into home, it'll give you texts, right? Tasks, I'm sorry. And so you can wake up every morning and you can look at this and say, okay, I'm supposed to send this person a text. I'm supposed to, do all these things per person. I have myself on a smart plan because I had set myself up way at the beginning just to see how it worked out, right? So an 8x8 would be how to cement yourself into somebody's brain when you first meet them, usually open house type, or maybe you met them in the grocery store or at a party or, whatever. But there are different ones, right? So there's the quarterly calling plan. It's going to remind you every 3 months to give somebody a call. Here's this new one about how to promote my app. These are all just different ways to make an automated reminder list for you, right? Some of them are emails that are just going to go out automatically. Other ones are going to prompt you to do something to touch them. So that's what we call a touch, right? So a 36 touch would be touching them 36 times over the course of a year. Statistically, history has shown that if you do that, you become top of mind for these contacts. And when they're talking to a neighbor or they find that they have some real estate needs of their own, you're going to be the first or second that pops up in their mind. That's all touching is about. That's what our whole game is about, aside from actually buying and selling a house. It's being at the top of their mind. That makes sense? So if you go into the launch folder for session 3, Matt last year had provided a sample of something he used to use. I don't know if he, this is 2018. This is older. It was part of when you had your team, right, Matt?
Yeah, it's just a kind of I'm a visual person. I kind of like looking at a year. When you talk about 36 times the contact someone, that seems ridiculous. That's crazy, right? And this was kind of just layout. You see, all right, January through December. That's one email, 1 month, each month. Okay, that's 12. 12 of those touches done, right? Okay, what else do we sprinkle up in, right? We sprinkle in these different things about a contest maybe, or a holiday thing or whatever. So
we have these seasonal things down here, back to school, happy holidays, right?
And then the yellow at the bottom, you can kind of see that was all like around an event, right? And I understand everyone's new and you don't have a vast database of customers to do like a customer appreciation party or stuff. But like, for instance, in the fall, as an office, we do a trunk or treat, right? A whole office gets together and we do it at the Keller Williams Advantage a business center downtown Northville. And, whether you have a car or not that you're hosting out of the trunk, you invite all of your people. So, for instance, the reasons to touch your people are leading up and after that event, like, oh, sorry, I missed you, or hopefully you can come kind of thing. So you can sprinkle in all of these different things for that suit you. The reality is that you need a systemized way of doing it, because if you just show up each day in front of your desk and wing it, you're just going to be reaching out to the low hanging fruit, which is the people that that want to hear from you. And you're not going to have anything specific to say to the other people or a reason for touching base. So this just helps the visual type people kind of put together a schedule. So you can come in, like Sharon said, you can come in, you see what your plans show you need to do that day, and you do it, right?
And then you can have that nice feeling of checking off the little box, right? So I have to make this smaller so I can see what I'm doing here. Is it going to come up? Okay.
All right. So moving on.
Yes.
Session 3 to buyers. We talked about kind of
Right.
your database, putting people in, right? Let's jump to the.
What do you do once they call you and they say they're ready?
Yeah, if someone
Right.
says, hey, oh, okay, yeah, you can help me buy a house or see a house or show a house. What do you do? Okay. So here's what a lot of agents do. I'll tell you that first. A lot of agents get a phone call from someone that they've been referred to, or from a friend that says, hey, my cousin, they want to buy a house. I gave you their number, or I gave them your number. Great. That's wonderful. I love hearing something like that. But then a lot of the agents say, okay, and then they wait for that person to call them. Okay. What you want to do is basically train your people to say, listen, and this is why I don't like just handing out business cards, because it puts the power in those people's hands to call you. I like to get their contact information so I can reach out to them and I can set something up. Okay. So if I had a cousin or a friend say, hey, I was talking to a coworker and I gave them your number. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. Tell me a little bit about them, right? Jot down their name, number. Great. Would you mind giving me their contact information? I'd love to reach out. If they gave that person your contact information, they shouldn't have a problem doing that. Why? Again, I want to proactively reach out, and I'm going to reach out to that person. And this is a similar conversation if you got an inbound lead, let's say from a buyer, but it's, hey, my name is Matt. I heard that so-and-so that we know mutually said that she was talking with you and mentioned that you were looking at interested in purchasing a home. I just wanted to call and introduce myself and let you know who I am and find out a little bit more about your situation and see if I have the opportunity to help you. And really, you're just kind of fact finding, asking a few questions to determine, what this person's timeline looks like, what their motivation looks like, the reason why they would be purchasing, and to establish yourself as a professional. Okay. And why I say that is because a lot of agents, the first time that they meet a buyer is actually at a property that they're showing them. And I'll admit, I've done it, I've been there, but it's not preferable, right? We don't want to be viewed as someone who just is there because we have to unlock a door for someone to go in and see a home. Okay. When working with buyers, it's important to set a lot of expectations properly and to kind of set up the cadence for how the whole process is going to go. So if I'm ever either referred to a client, or I obtain a buyer somehow, or I meet them, the first thing that I like doing is a buyer consultation, right? Just like if I'm going to list a property, I want to meet the seller and go over the listing process and talk about their home. With a buyer, I want to meet and go through a buyer consultation. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It really doesn't. In fact, you could do this over the phone, but I do primarily prefer I do them in person. Right now, do through FaceTime or through Zoom. You could, even though we can't show houses, you could do buyer consultations all day long right now. And essentially the cadence of that conversation is to, again, understand their needs, right? To understand where they're at, what they need to do, to tell them about yourself, and then educate them in the process. Because oftentimes, especially for first-time buyers, it's all about setting the proper expectations because they've never done it and they have no idea what there is to do. And that you're going to alleviate a lot of headaches and a lot of frustrations if you just lay it all out there ahead of time, right? So you begin navigating the process together. Sharon, any thoughts?
No, I mean, that's, I have a copy if you want me to share. Hold
The
on.
questionnaire?
Yeah, I just had it open. It just like disappeared. I was opening it up.
Yeah, if you say, well, I don't know what questions to ask. Well, there's a document in there that'll be great. You don't necessarily have to ask every question, but whether you're on the phone with somebody or in person, kind of keeping track
There we
of
go.
that. Right.
So,
Perfect.
Like Matt said, you really need to get a good idea of where they're going, what they want, what their motivations are. And then that's how you're going to provide your best value, right? That's how you can really steer them in the direction that they need to go. Because something that I think is really important for this is the truth, and it's important as an agent for you to believe, is that we don't get paid for what we do. We get paid for what we know, right? So another great way to maybe think about that in another industry is a good tax accountant versus TurboTax, right? TurboTax is going to tell you where to fill out every number, and they're going to make sure that 1 + 1 = 2. But a good tax accountant is going to look at your whole situation, is going to evaluate it, and let you know how you might need to position yourself in order to have better, less tax exposure or whatever, right? They're looking at the whole. They can advise you. This computer program is just kind of taking numbers in and spitting them out. So you need to believe that about yourself, gather all this information about your clients, and then provide them with your knowledge so that you can help them when things come up. Does that make sense? Right? So the first way to do that is to get to know them, and sometimes get to know what's going on with them that they probably don't even understand is going on in the background, right? So the first questions are super, basic. How long are you going to stay here or in this next home? Is it going to be your forever home, or is it just a stepping stone? Are you pre-approved? What's your price range? If you're not pre-approved, what do you think your price range is? If we found you a home today that meets all of your needs and as many of your wants as possible, are you ready to submit an offer? You need to judge if they're just kind of starting to think about the process or if they're ready to go, because that's going to determine how you're going to behave with them, right? And run with them. Who will be living in the home that you purchased? These are just ways to get to know them, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to sit there in front of them and read these and check them off, but you can, if that's just part of your process. Like, are you going to have out-of-town guests? Do they want a guest room, or do they want a basement that's finished to be able to have people over? What do they want to use their space for? Do they want any pets? Are they going to want a fenced-in yard someday? Ideal location, boundaries, right? You might want to talk about drive time, what school districts are important to them. I had a person that after talking to them for a while, we realized that they actually wanted a neighborhood with sidewalks because they like to go out on walks. We didn't know that at first for a while. You just have to keep talking them through.
So
keep going through these.
Yeah. So I think it's important to have a kind of a pre-qualification conversation over the phone. And in that, you're not necessarily determining if they are or they aren't going to work with you, but really, the prioritization. If someone says, well, I'm stuck in a lease for the next 8 months, I don't have a dime saved, and I've got pretty crappy credit. That's a different urgency than, hey, my lease is up in 60 days. I've been saving. I'm already pre-approved. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Both of those people, especially if you're newer, are worth speaking to, right? But you have to ask questions in order to identify, who takes priority. A coach once told me that this analogy, that the amount of buyers or clients, but particularly buyers that you can work with, think of it as a parking lot. And there's only so many car spaces. There's only so many spaces in the parking lot, right? So once your parking lot is full, you cannot add any more cars to it unless you move a car out of it. Rather, think of it a car as a buyer, right? Until a buyer buys, or you decide that you're not working with them. And I know none of you are particularly in this situation, but think about the fact that you have limited bandwidth to work with. So when you start talking to people and they start being the type of people that aren't motivated or aren't serious or aren't able to get financing, you have to make a choice of whether or not you invest your time, which is your money essentially, in working with them. And you can save yourself a lot of headache by really pre-qualifying up front. Okay. So when I always recommend doing a buyer consultation. What is a buyer consultation? Well, buyer consultation is a formal one-on-one appointment with them where they come in ideally to the office. I've also done them at like a coffee shop, right? But it's purposeful where they come in, they meet, and you sit down and you talk about the process and what they're looking for, right? And the cadence of it is I have a buyer consultation, a buyer thing, you know, and we have a couple of copies of that, of different things in there. I know that there's also one in command. Justin, you had been working on listing presentation. I don't know if you also took a look at buyer presentation or buyer consultation. Usually
Yeah.
a lot of them have like the roadmap, right? Well, what's next? Well, first you get pre-approved, then you make an offer, then you get inspection, then you do appraisal. You know, that's kind of a lot of times what you do, and that's where your conversations are kind of based upon, is that process. So they kind of always know what's going to happen next, and through it, you're asking a lot of questions, and you're you know, writing stuff down and making notes. One of the most important things is, you know, their ability to buy, because, you know, the thing is, most sellers can sell, but not all buyers can buy. And what I mean by that is people have to have the wherewithal as well as the motivation to be able to purchase. So even the person that wants to buy a house tomorrow but can't get qualified or doesn't have any money, you know, that's not someone necessarily that actually can. So if they have not come to you having already spoken with a mortgage lender, there's time to get them in front of, to get pre-approved. Okay.
If you guys
so-
haven't had a chance to look at the buyer's presentations in command under designs, this is what, you know, they look like at first. And then you would customize it, you know, with your own things. But
Cool.
the template looks nice. There's a lot of great stuff in here. I wish that this would have been available when I started, because I spent a lot of time and angst second guessing myself, trying to design something that would look good. And this is so easy. You know, this is fantastic.
Yeah. So for me, I wouldn't create something that's necessarily specific for each person. I would just have basically a boilerplate one that I bring. But this is good in terms of giving them.
Yeah,
kind of an
this is
overview
great
of
stuff.
everything. And it's something that they should hold on to. So at any
Yeah.
given time, if they have a question or, you know, something, they don't know what's going to happen next, they can go back and refer to. Otherwise, they're going to be calling or texting you.
Yeah, so oftentimes these buyer consultations are, at least for me, it's a time when you can sit down, not only find out really what they want and what they're looking for, but it's also your opportunity to educate them on the entire process and to set expectations when you're not under the gun, ready to write an offer,
Yeah.
right? So often, well, and you have to read your client too, right? So typically I'll have blank copies of purchase agreements, and you walk them through it and you just kind of highlight it the same way Pete does, right? When you're going through Pete's forms, and you explain to them where you're going to be filling things out, right? So this is where the price is. This is where we're going to add everything that's included. This is where we'll jot things down that are excluded. You know, this is the part that shows that you're going to want an inspection. This is the part where we're going to ask for a home warranty or not, you know, just different things like that. Because especially if you're in a competitive situation, that's not the time to try and start answering, you know, 60 questions when you're trying to get them to just initial things. So if you can very calmly, and they will absorb it better when they're not feeling pressured as well, right? And they can take it home and they can read it and look at it, ask you questions, and then everybody feels confident. And then they can go out and really start looking at stuff. So that buyer's consultation meeting, in my mind, is very important. It really gets you set off on the right foot. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's paramount, and everyone should be doing it, so that the first time you're not speaking about the process is at a home, because they're not going to understand how we go about selecting homes, how we go about touring homes, what the expectation is once you find a home. It's the time to go through that whole process so that they understand. You know, you're going to test their level of commitment. if you go through this and you say, have you been pre-approved? No, I've never spoken to the lender. Okay, great. I have a couple people that I'd like to refer you to. I'm going to provide them with your contact information, so they will be reaching out to you. I like doing that because I don't like handing out cards again, like what I just said earlier. And putting it on them. I'm going to drive it forward. So if they suddenly say, hey, Matt, I spoke with such and such, I got pre-approved, we're up, they answer all my questions, that's showing me that this person they're motivated, right? They're going to do the things that are necessary. If it's, I don't know, maybe I'll talk to this person, whatever, they're kind of showing me that there's not really, they're not really going to be motivated, or they're not going to necessarily, I'm not going to jump through hoops in order to push them along when they don't seem to have any urgency. Make sense?
All right. So,
and I will say, so when we talk about buyer consultations, it's a no-brainer to say that the buyer is going to be there, but it's just as important with a listing presentation that all the parties are involved. Meaning, if it's a engaged couple, right? I want to present to both of them. Now, if it's a buddy and he's buying a house, but he's got a long-term girlfriend, well, I don't necessarily need to know her situation, but I kind of want to make sure that I'm in tune with both of them, because whether it's said or not, she's going to be part of the decision too. So I like to involve all the people that are decision makers. What we're finding over the past couple of years, Sharon will attest to this, a lot of buyers are involving their parents. And it never happened before. And I'm not necessarily saying their parents need to show up at the buyer consultation, but you do need to be prepared to ask, is anyone else involved in the decision? Well, I'm probably going to have my dad come to the showings because I really trust him and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. That's wonderful. I'm excited to meet him. But you're making a mental note. I'm selling dad too, right?
Yeah.
Because for them, it's important. So just know that. Again, I have it in the office or at a coffee shop, or in this case over Zoom or something like that. And it's, something that we role play with agents in the office. I try to always emphasize it's not selling and it's not telling everything. Yes, you want to talk about a lot of things, but it needs to be a two-way conversation. You need to ask a lot of questions because they will tell you a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So the next thing that we're going to cover today is scheduling showings. We're going to show you how you would typically do it, realizing that right now Real Comp has turned off the direct link to be able to schedule a showing. You can still schedule them, and I'll show you how. An app that you guys need to download and have is for SentryLock. If you don't already have that on the phone, those are the digital lock boxes that we have, and not everybody uses them, but a lot of agents do. So you need to be able to have access to open those digital lock boxes. So let me share another screen. Does everybody have SentryLock or not yet? Probably. Not yet, everybody?
I do.
So the real
I do.
comp, okay. So the
Okay.
Real Comp app is going to allow you to view properties, right? And the same information essentially, but mobile friendly is what Sharon's pulling up right now. The Showing Time app is what allows you to schedule and view showings on your listings as well as properties that you're going to want to. And the SentryLock app allows you just to access the properties that have SentryLock lock boxes on them. So if you request a showing on a property that just has an old school combination lock, it's going to tell you on the Showing Time app what that code is. But if it's the SentryLock electronic lockbox, you're going to have that app already on your phone so that you can connect to it via Bluetooth in order to open it up when you're there. And all of these things are included in the dues that you're already paying, right? So this isn't a fee or additional to be able to do this. It just makes you a lot easier if you have this set up and you kind of practice a little bit on your phone ahead of time. So when you go to show a property, you're not going to be completely flustered. Goes back to what Sharon was saying, is that we know that showing properties is one of the things realtors should be doing, one of the 5 things. So if you do not have a buyer that you're showing properties to go out and go to a preview a home, ideally one that maybe has this lockbox, so you can fumble through it on the porch and not be embarrassed in front of the client.
So centralock.com is the site. You should call RealComp to make sure, but I'm pretty sure your login is going to be RC for RealComp, RC, and then those last digits, your license number digits that you usually log into RealComp with, right? So mine's 397071, whatever those last digits are. So just make sure that you get that on your phone. So when we go in here, I'm going to just randomly search for a home. I'll search for a home in Livonia. 05021. I'll pick this one because it's the first one, right? So typically what you would do is you would go down here and there's usually a button here that says showing time, but it's been turned off because they're not letting people show homes. I'm going to show you how you can get around that anyway. So if you log into showingtime.com, that takes you directly into the site. Maybe. Now I have an error. Oh, there we go. No, I don't want to do this right now. So if you needed to see something in this case, or if you ever wanted to do this anyway, sorry, remind me later. You would go to showings, right? Make a new request. This is just for a single one. We're going to go back through this again later when everything gets opened up and you can use it the regular way. So I'm sorry, I can't see the top of my screen, so this is difficult for me to go back and forth. Here we go. If you take the MLS number of a property and you paste it in here, it's going to show you this house. So I'm going to say, yes, this is the one I want to see. And what it's going to do here is, first, it's confirming who I am, right? And how I want to be contacted. So down here, here's a new little warning. Due to concerns about COVID-19 and as a courtesy to all parties, please do not schedule or attend showings if anyone in your party exhibits cold, flu-like symptoms or has been exposed. If this were the only home I was going to see, and it was just one single showing, you hit this button right here that says schedule a single showing, right? So the agent for this home has requested, it's almost 1 o'clock. It doesn't look like there's any kind of lead time requests on here, or else it would have been blocked off. So I can request what time I want to go see it. So today's Monday. Let's say I want to go see it at 4 o'clock, right? So I'm going for a showing, but just to let you see what the drop-down choices on here are, it could be a second showing if you were coming back again with a client, or a third showing. If you are just previewing homes, the way we had said that one of the 5 things would be go see properties or go on appointments, and if you can't, you would select agent preview here so that the listing agent is aware that you're not actually bringing a client through. It's kind of a tease for them if they think, oh, you're coming through and you have a client, and then they keep bugging you for the feedback. However,
Sharon,
yeah.
do you do that much anymore? Like personally?
Agent previews?
Yeah.
I don't do it a lot anymore. If there is a client that I have, this is the other time people do agent previews. If you have a client that's very particular or really only has a limited amount of time that they can go see homes, and you feel like you can go through and vet some things for them before you take the time to drive there with them, then I would go through and I would preview some homes for them. Or maybe you have someone who's relocating into the area. Again, it's kind of the same situation. Maybe they're only here for a weekend and you have to see a few things. I would go through and I would preview a bunch of stuff before deciding what I'm going to spend their time on with them.
Do you know, do they give you a hard time being that there's actually not a customer coming with you when you set up that time? Like homeowners
Rarely.
not wanting to leave?
Rarely. I mean, if you have a homeowner that's like that, maybe the listing agent will call you and say something about it, but not
And you're
often.
hoping, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
And so I mean, obviously you're hoping that the listing agent is explaining to them that this is exposure. They have interested buyers. You know, you want people coming in because he has people that might be looking for your house. So I'm
Correct.
hopefully with their, okay.
Right. And you can, let's say, as a new agent that's just previewing for your own benefit, you can always say, you know, I've got buyers interested in this area, so I need to take a look at them first.
Okay.
You know, you can do that. Inspection, right? When it comes time for the inspection, you do that here. Photography. There are some listing agents that really very strictly want a record of every visit that's in that house. And so they're going to say, go do it through showing time, schedule it through showing time. I'm doing a walkthrough, go put it in showing time, you know. So those options are all here for you. Then you would say, so we know that it's starting at 4 o'clock, and then it's asking you what's the latest time that you might be at the property so that the homeowner knows how long they should be gone. What's your agency type, right? Usually you're the buyer broker, right? Because you're not an assistant. And then if you would like, this is not anything that the other party is going to see, but you can choose clients so that later you can run filters and reports for everything that you have shown a particular client. You know, if you need to backtrack and take a look at that. So, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add, well, I'll do yes here. Hold on. Oh, I can't see my screen. Okay. Oh, I didn't do this. Sorry. Oh, it was a Goin show. Oops. So let me show you how to cancel a showing. So I'm going to go on my calendar. This shows that I just scheduled something for 4 o'clock today. I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to come in here. So let me just show you, since it was confirmed, right? It's telling me that the access type is a combination. So that's the old lockbox, right? It's either going to be like a dial combination or a push button, or maybe like the little rotating dials, right? And it's telling me what the combination number is, 0167. Here's the agent, co-listing agent, and that's it. Now, down here, you can see this little button that says cancel appointment. I'm going to cancel this appointment. So, cancel. What's my reason? I'm going to say other.
Mistake.
I'm just going to say mistake. Yeah. Mistake. Sorry. I mean, cancel. That's it. Right? So they're now going to get a message that says, sorry, made a mistake. What I was going to do, and it's a little difficult now, but I'm going to try. Make a new request. I'm going to do this again. Same one. Whoops. I'm going to pick them. So if you recall, we just did schedule a single showing before the last time, right? I'm going to add this to showing cart. Showing cart allows me to add several properties. I can create a tour for a day, right? And it's going to show it to me on a map and all sorts of different things. So it's going to be for the 6th. I could have put a buyer name if I wanted to, same as we had talked about before. And you have to name your tours. So I'm just going to call it the test tour. All right. I'm going to go back to Real Comp and I'm going to pick this one. I'm just copying and pasting. So you see here where it says you can enter listing IDs. That's how I can add more. And I believe you just separate them with a comma. So I go back here to Real Comp and I'm going to pick this one. Whoops. So the way you would do this typically is you would just like select all the ones that you want, and then you would hit the button at the bottom and it would automatically upload all these listing numbers in here for you. So you wouldn't have to go through this, you know, rigmarole. All right, go. All right, see how it just added them for me? Perfect.
Notice she's assembling a tour of multiple properties. She hasn't actually requested them yet, because typically, you know, if you have a client that wants to see one property at a time, that's okay. But what you'll find is it's going to be a lot better use of your time and their time if you can schedule a few, especially if they're close to each other, right? One after another. And this is just the building blocks to setting that up so that you're most efficient. You're not running around town.
So there are a few things on this screen to pay attention to. This first one is the order in which they were added, right? They don't mean anything except the order in which they were added. And you can see them down here on this map. Now, they are in a pretty nice order. It's kind of funny the way those laid out. But if you wanted, there's this button down here called Smart Route. You press that button, it's going to, according to traffic, and it left it the same because it was all kind of in the same order anyway. It's going to move it around into an order that makes the most sense to get there the quickest and to avoid traffic. If you, for whatever reason, decide that you want them to be in a different order, all you have to do is change the numbers right here, hit the update button, and it'll switch them.
Sharon,
So for, yep.
you could also just hover your pointer over any of them, not the remove button, but just any over them. Click and drag it around. You can sort them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Right.
I'll restart. Let's say maybe you said, property number 2 is actually the one we want to start at for whatever reason. Right. You can manually tweak this and just, but again, you haven't set the time yet.
One of the reasons I'm going to put this back, I'm going to try and put this back, whoops, the way it was, to show you why you might want to switch things around. So the second column is the address, right? This one right here under appointment type, those are the different types of appointments that a home will have as set up by the listing agent. A go and show is exactly what we just saw happen in that first example. All you have to do is request it and you're automatically going to get a confirmation. There's no lead time requests. It's the most flexible way to get in and out of a house. So the great thing about go and shows is if you're running a little late or a little early for one of your other appointments, you have that wiggle room because there's not a homeowner that just ran out of their house and is probably sitting in their car half a block away waiting for you to leave, right? So if it makes sense, you can leave your Goin Shows to the end. Maybe you want them both at the beginning. I mean, that's going to be up to you to think through. Do you understand how that's helpful, right? So, 3 and 4. So if I wanted to go to 1 and 2, I think I would actually switch this. I'd go to this one first, 1, then I go to 2, both on schedules, and then I could zip up to 3 as if I wanted to do my Goin Shows last, and then fly out here to the 4th one. Knowing that if we wrap it up early, then that's fine. We're done, right? All right, so this next column that says appointment status shows you that we have not requested our time or our showing yet. Then this is going to be the time. This over here is more of a graphic version of the timeline. So because it's already 1 o'clock, obviously it's not letting us schedule anything before that. That's why it's all grayed out. Anything later in the day that's blacked out means there's no showings that are allowed during that time period. So you would just come here. Let's see, I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna wanna go see this one. I'm gonna start at 2 o'clock. And I plan on only being there for a half hour, but I don't know, maybe my client is gonna be running a little late. I'm just gonna say 2:45. So then I hit save. It is not requesting anything yet. So don't be worried about that, right? So you'll see here that between stop 1 and stop 2, it's 1.8 miles and it's an estimated 5-minute drive. So if I'm going to see this house between 2 and 2:45, let's say my client shows up right on time, 2 o'clock, we're done by like 2:20. It'll take me 5 minutes to get to the other one. I'm going to say 2:30 for my next one. But let's say my client's running late and we don't get done with this one till 2:45. Takes me 5 minutes to get there, and then we want to spend another half hour there. I'm going to make my end time 3:30. Because what if I don't get there till 3 o'clock? Right? I still want to give myself another half hour. So you have to think ahead a couple steps to schedule your time to give yourself that wiggle room, right? So you're not rushing or missing and having to call the agent saying, we're running late, can you give us another half hour? You know, you got to think ahead a couple steps. Then because these are Goin Shows, I've got plenty of time. Let's say everybody was running on time, 2 o'clock, we're done by 2:30, we're done with the second one by 3 o'clock. Well, wait, hold on, let me go back. I knew it was going to take me 10 minutes to get there, right? I could still say, I'm going to start these at 3 and I'm going to go to 4, right? Because even if the other one doesn't get done till 3:30, I'll still be there by 3:40. I'll be fine. So I save that. And on this other one, I'm going to do, I don't know, 3:15 to 4:15 or to 4:30. Will it let me? No. So sometimes agents will limit it and only let you have an hour. Depends. So here graphically, you can see how my appointments are lining up. And these are stacked on each other a little more because they're Goin Shows, right? I've got flexibility. Once you do all of that, it's only when you hit this button that says send request that an electronic request goes out to the homeowner. And usually the listing agent is just an FYI, but whatever, whoever has been designated to be able to approve the request is going to get a message. They're going to deny it or grant access. Or if it's a Goin Show, you're automatically going to get confirmation. And you'll get, first of all, you'll get a text or an email blast saying that your request was made. And then you will get a text or an email with access information, right? So if it's a Goin Show, those messages come back to back. You're immediately going to get your confirmation. If not, you just have to wait until they go ahead and approve it, and you'll get your access information. Any questions? Did I miss anything? Go ahead.
So awesome overview, Sharon. And this isn't an exact science, right? As she said, I mean, there's some massaging going on, and what you'll find too is that your buyers might be the type of people that can breeze through a house in 10 minutes. You know, you might have the type of buyers that want to see every single nook and cranny of this house and dwell on it. And you know, for the next time, you need to have more time, right, in between showings or whatever. So just adjust as necessary over time. And just be prepared to not necessarily be, on time exactly. That's why you do these windows. So the point that she made about appointments being required early on is probably better, specifically if you see in the listing notes or the showing notes that an agent says, please let us know if you're not going to be on time. You know, some people are very particular, right? Like Sharon said, people are getting their car filled with their dogs, their kids, they're pulling up the house. When they leave at 3, they want that showing at 3, right? It's respectful. It's not always going to work that way, but if you can, just keep that in mind.
So when you get those, that access information, it's either going to give you the combination and hopefully the location of where that lock is, or it's going to say Sentry Lock and again, the location of it, in which case with Sentry Lock, you will have a passcode that you set up on the app on your phone, and you will be opening those lock boxes via Bluetooth on your phone.
I have a question.
Sure.
So after you have this all set up, is it automatically sent to your client, or is that something you have to do?
Good question. So once, I don't know if I can show how to do it, but once you have, oh, maybe I can look at an old one. Let me see.
Yeah, Gene, you never want to share the details about access for these showings for a client with the lock boxes and such. We can never give that out to anyone.
Right.
But there is a view for
So-
a tour that you can
Yep.
send them. But I typically just tell them, well, this is the first place we're going to start. And then from there, they don't need to know all the times for all the properties, because they're just going to be kind of jumping in your car or following you on to the next.
But if you want to, like, once everything is confirmed, right? I went back to that calendar, because that calendar is what shows like all that showing cart stuff as well. I click on my tour, and here it shows me what we were doing on that day. And this, you can see, we had tried to get in and it was declined, and then we had a couple that were confirmed. We tried to get into it later in the day, they declined it again. But up here in the corner, you can print it or you can email it, right? Send tour details. And when you send the tour details, it'll ask you, right? You're sending it to your buyer, and it's going to be more of a summary, and it's not going to show them the combination information, because I think it's a $5,000 fine if you share lockbox information with somebody who's not a licensed agent. It's a big deal, right? Because it's security.
And I don't think that's anyone's intentions ever, but like, for instance, you're running late, right? The first property that you're going to show is Goin Show, and your clients are there. And part of you might say, well, here's a lockbox code. Go ahead and in there, I'll be there in a minute. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Another big one is if you're busy or you're out of town and you have a client who is so hot and bothered over a property that says, just let me go in, especially investors. They'll do that a lot. Don't do it. Call. I mean, you've got a ton of people with us in the market center. If somebody's available, they'll open a door for you, right? Or, throw them $20 to go open a door for you. It's worth it. Don't bend that rule. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that. The next thing, what's the next thing? Hold on. Central Lock showing time. Well, we've covered everything for launch 3 today so far. So what questions do you guys have as far as scheduling showings? Again, I know that it's kind of a roundabout way and it's not exactly how we would normally go through that, right? We usually go in via real comp, but it still shows you the different capabilities that that has. Anything? No? Okay. So your homework is to make sure that you have the real comp app on your phone, the showing time app on your phone, the SentryLock app on your phone with your SentryLock account set up. Yep. Yep. You're on mute.
Lot going on. Sorry. So real comp MLS, and that is the same login and password that you do the online. The one in the top middle is showing time. Okay. And then the one in the bottom right hand corner, Sentry Key RE. So it's blue background with a white lock. That's the Sentry Lock.
And, you know, because there's times that you might be out with a client and you, let's say you got done early or you happen to pass by a house and there's a sign up and they say, oh, can we go look at that one? You're like, I don't know. Hold on. Let me check. You whip your phone out, look it up, because on the MLS, on the Real Comp app, you can look at listings that are near me. There's lots of different ways to search things. And if it's a Goin Show or there's no lead time requirements, you might be able to get right in while you're there. So
Yep.
You need to have those tools available to you. What other questions? Anything? Has anybody been practicing any scripts with other people or with themselves?
I've been practicing them on the phone with clients.
Good for you. How's it going?
Wow.
No, it's going really good because, again, I took the uncomfortableness for me out of it, which I think I was stating last time, by calling everybody and asking how they're doing, letting everybody know that I took some of the, like the holiday script with the, was it Ford with friends,
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what it stands for?
occupation.
Yep.
Yeah, occupation.
Recreation.
Yes.
Yeah, recreation and then dreams. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, but then asking them, like, what are you going to do after this, to see like what, level they're at, as far as, one is to see how they're doing, two is to see how it's affecting them, and if it even makes sense. Hey, these people are really freaked out. I know one of my contractors, he's like, I can't believe this is happening, Justin. I can't believe. And he like donated a bunch of N95 masks to U of M, because he's he fixed cracks in basement walls, so he has all gloves and all that protective stuff. And he just says, he was more concerned about it, and then anyway, so, but we kind of had, we're already in business together, so we kind of got to the real estate part conversation anyway. But I took it out where I don't have to push to get to that point, and I say, well, can I contact you later to see how you're doing? And then as people progress with being comfortable or not, then you can break into that conversation.
That's excellent. Very
But
good.
I like the Ford one because it's like, hey, how's everyone doing? It gets the right questions asked to, hey, and then move forward.
How's work?
Yeah. But I do have a question. Can I ask a question? I mean, I'm
course.
sorry. I don't know if anybody else wants to share about their scripts first.
No? Go ahead. What's your question?
So, and I just got certified with the PSA certification, and I'm working on the ePro now, and there's a lot of good information there. But I know the thing is that Keller Williams offers a lot. So, I mean, everything I think any new agent would need to do their job efficiently. But again, there's so many things out there with NAR and GMAR and other memberships. But there's as far as getting your hub set up, your website, and offering something to get, a call to action and get people's information once you get them to your website. I know there's one is offering like the app to get the email set up, but like get smart plans set up with the app, and the nurture and all those other smart plans. But to get them on your site, people that you don't have their contact information that got you from social media or anywhere else, offering them something to get that information is what I'm kind of like working on next kind of thing. So what I think would be great is that nurture is like telling them about their neighborhood, but I think a really good one, which I think Taylor was talking about before, is offering, would you like to know what the value of your house is? Would you like to know what kind of equity you have in your home? So doing a CMA, especially just taking this PSA course, I mean, they just explained how I can get down to the dollar on what a house is worth. I mean, how to break it apart, see value of a bathroom compared to one without a third, 2 bathroom, 3rd bathroom, all that stuff, break down in detail. But to do something quick, to get someone of value and not misrepresent what information you're giving them, what do you guys use out of all these options to do a CMA? What would you do for a quick thing where you can say, put in your information, I'll send you a quick home value, but to give them something that's realistic and quickly, so you're not spending a lot of time giving out free CMAs?
I go through Real Comp to do kind of like a quick and dirty, close in their area and their proximity, close in, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. I mean, without spending a whole lot of time. I mean, it's not necessarily the market price, but I want to talk to them more actually before I just give them a number, because you don't know why they want that number. And you don't want to scare them off with something that's too low or too, so
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You got to take it as an opportunity to talk to them.
So maybe
it's a bit of an oxymoron, a quick CMA.
Mm-hmm.
If they want a quick CMA, go to Zillow. I mean, I don't say that like it's half joking, but it is like, if you truly want an equity check in, I'm going to need to know more information, right? If you don't, I'll just give you a range, 300 to 350, somewhere in there, right? Because if I'm not taking a lot of time with it, or I'm not asking them questions about it, or if I'm just kind of looking at I'm not going to give a dollar amount quickly. I can give a range, but I can't give a dollar amount quickly. The important part of all of those call to actions, Justin, is that it's opening you up to a conversation. It's not really click here for a simple whatever. It's, I get your information, I'm going to call you. I'm trying to get your information. Why? Right. So, I just kind of err on the side of caution in terms of the expectations that you're setting with people, because it's not something you can just shoot from the hip for. As you learned, there's a lot that goes into it. So, I always say, listen, you can get your home. There's no shortage of home valuation websites out there that'll give you a range. Now, because we know everybody's home is unique and there's so many factors more than that, if you want a more detailed analysis, I'm happy to provide that to you. It's just not done like that. It's a little bit more detail. And I think people appreciate that. And if someone's more serious about it, they're not just kind of curious, but they're actually thinking about running the numbers. They're willing to talk with you, have that conversation. They want to know, what's special about your home. You probably hear back yelling in the back.
So from your responses, the better way would be maybe if I did want to do that as an offering, because I think of interest, a lot of people really like to know what their house is worth and what their equity might be, is to then, instead of sending them one from whatever site, is to actually then call them and then say, so I noticed that you were looking for information for the value. Can I ask you a couple questions and get it going that route?
Absolutely.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's again, not, there's just so much more to that. I would put, if you want to go down that route, have opening those doors of conversation, on your website, have a page that says for sellers. And it's like, I put out there like how I sell homes. I put it all out there, my marketing plan, whatever like that. And it's just basically like, pricing a home is very specific to what's going on. So, you list a couple of things that you do that you're committing to be able to do, and they contact you, and then you go over that. I don't like the idea of making it as simple as fill out this form and you'll get something in the email from me, because I don't even like sending CMAs. because they don't know what the hell they're looking at, right? So I like doing it and then explaining it to them, ideally in person. If not, open this up and we'll go over it together, because they don't know what it means. Their eyes are going to dollars per square foot, and so you're trying to drive it. That's why, you know, if I'm just giving them, you know, a roundabout, it's a value range.
So that would make sense to call them and then have that discussion. And then at that point you can say, so you're looking for an evaluation on the value of your home. So are you looking to buy? Are you looking to sell? You know, and then,
well, yeah, I would even be careful with those kinds of conversations, because I think human nature is to say, well, no, I just, you know, using some of the other scripts that you're going to see in there and say, how long have you lived there? Great. What do you like about your house? You know, you're trying to like get more things out of it rather than just jump in, are you buying or selling? Because then it's all about the numbers, right? So more so like just kind of get the conversation starting about what they love about their house. How long have they been there? Oh, if you were to move, where would you go?
And the minute you ask them, what do you know, and you can say that you're asking all those questions to help with this market analysis, right? And the minute you ask, what do you not like about your house? You'll start to notice if they are thinking of moving, right? Because they may start talking about things that, I wish this was a little different, or that. A lot of what we do is psychology, you know, and it's different with every person. And you just have to, it goes back to that whole seek to understand and listen, you know, because you can get a lot of information if you're listening.
Yeah. So Justin, a lot of, when I came into real estate, a lot of people that started doing the Facebook ads and social media ads, they were running a lot of campaigns of click here to find out how much your house is worth. And those ads used to kill. People would click on it all day, and you could do CMA, CMA, CMA. And then they started to not have any value, because again, people could find their value, or at least a range of it, various places online. So, you know, you just kind of had to shift a little bit. So, you know, you just have to be careful with your kind of your call to actions as far as what you're trying to do. You know that you're trying to convey, what you're trying to get your house for, but maybe it's something like, you know, an equity check-in, or, you know, is it, you know, depending on the type of person, you know, what it makes sense. Does it make sense for you to upgrade your house right now? Call me for a comprehensive analysis. That's just a fancy word of saying what kind of home are you in right now? What's your equity position? What would you be potentially looking to buy? What you could get in equity from that house to this house? Is that payment comfortable with you? Can you get pre-approved for it? You know what I mean? But you're just opening up the conversation. If you start it with, you're looking to know what your house is worth, you're just going to get people that are taking advantage of you, or they're not going to give you information because they're all they're looking for.
They're too closed off, right? Yeah. They don't trust you yet. So you have to build a relationship.
So Justin, why don't we do this? I would like you to call me this week, and I would like to pretend like I was clicked on a forum or something like that, right? Where I was interested, or I gave you something, you got my number, and I want you to be the agent and to ask some of those questions. So look at your scripts, develop kind of a cadence for how you would want the conversation to go. And I will treat you just like a normal customer would be, that is potentially interested in maybe knowing how much their house is worth for reasons to be yet discovered. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Jordan, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say, what kind of offer the idea where Justin kind of took it anyway, is to, collect the information, call them back and say, hey, I'd like to ask a few, clarifying questions. And then as part of your call to action on the website is say, I'll develop this CMA, and once done, I will, you and I will go over it together so I can explain, just what all the numbers mean. So giving them another, touch point with a potential client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing worth noting, we're just throwing it around here for our conversations, but make sure that you don't use terms that our clients don't necessarily know or use, right? Like, we know what a CMA is. They might not. And unfortunately, they're not going to admit that they don't know. So they're going to feel a little bit disjointed. So we use terms that customers maybe might know: a comprehensive market analysis, and an equity checkup, or different terms like that. So whenever you're using call to actions or verbiage on your website or your presentations, just make sure that it's not industry specific.
Right. Okay. So download all those apps, rake through your, Facebook or any other places and look for some of those contacts that are people that you didn't even realize you didn't have all their information, and try and keep building up that database.
It's kind of not last minute. It's kind of last minute. We just opened up to basically anyone. I'm doing a mastermind with Rob today at 3. If you can join us, I just posted the Zoom link on coaching. So yeah, it would be great if you could join it. It's kind of just open-ended. We've been doing these open masterminds with different groups, cappers, non-cappers and such. So this one should just have some conversation about what's going on in the industry, some of the tried and true things that are important to be doing, and how some agents in this market are responding and making sure they're focusing on their business for when we get out of this. So if you can join us at 3, love to see you there.
And then today is Monday. Thursday, when we get back together, we are going to go over the documents that are required to make an offer. And then we're going to ask you all to pick a random house and actually write up an offer and then submit it to us. So be ready for that, and make sure you keep going to Pete's forms. And then we will tackle that on Thursday. Okay?
Hey, one last thing is with the showing time, don't they have a stopwatch or something that they were implementing for letting them know when you leave, or is that on showing time?
That is a feature through the Century Lock app. And I take that back. Okay. There is a thing through showing time. If you go after you've opened a door and you go in, you can notify that you've left. Most people don't do that, although there's nothing wrong with it. It's respectful. The Century Lock, though, because you're using a code electronically to access the lockbox and to lock it up, they will, on record, have when you came and when you left, and they'll typically notify. I think there's a setting, be notified when people lock it up. The thing is, with the Century Lock, if you access it and you keep it open and you don't close it, it won't. So you'll get an email like an hour later saying the end of tour was never confirmed. Yeah. But with the Century Lock, that lockbox code that you get only works one time, and it doesn't allow you to go back or anyone else to go back.
But it works during your time period, right? Like if you took the key out, took the key out, open the door and shut the box again, it'll let you open it again to put the key back in.
Yes.
As long as it's within your scheduled period of time.
And then time it'll let you know. Yeah.
So
it'll let them know that, So if you've got a seller that's waiting down the street for you to be done, they would receive notification.
If you did it that way.
Habit to notify you're done on showing time and Century Lock both would be fine and helpful.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Okay.
In actual practice, just a little bit more challenging because you're trying to make sure the key's in there and you're getting in. You're going to what property you go to next, but there's nothing wrong with it, and I think that there's nothing better than starting off your relationship with an agent and with the seller when you're showing properties to be that respectful agent.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so we will see everyone on Thursday.
Okay, guys.
Same time, same place. All right. Bye, guys.
Great, thanks.